The IDP Pros podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to get started today.
And so, the IDP Pro Manager Pod is a proud member of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, home of the hottest, smartest, and fastest growing sports gambling and fantasy football providers in professional sports entertainment to date. And now, without any further delay, here are your veteran senior IDP pros, Kraig and Gary, sacking today's hottest NFL IDP. Damn it, sorry about that.
Hello, everyone. It is Friday, June 2nd, 2023. And you are back with the IDP Pro Manager Podcast. I am Gregory, and with me, as always, the IDP tipster himself, Gary. How is June treating you so far? We're somehow almost halfway done with the year here.
I know, it is just flying by, and I'm doing great, Kraig. I'll tell you what, the wife and I, we just updated a very old set of wedding rings, and, you know, it just kind of brings back. We've been together since 1999, man. That's a long freaking time, right? We've been married since 2005. Yep. So pretty cool. Her birthday's coming up in June, and we got an anniversary, whatever that is. Don't put me on the spot, but either way, it's coming up in July.
Well, early congratulations to you on
Thank
that, and hopefully many more years coming up here. This is our show somehow, and we are going back into the sort of stock reports for veterans post NFL draft here, and we're going to be doing we'll be doing the AFC West this week. So we'll be looking at the Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, and Raiders. But before we get into that, we do have a little bit of news for you. Speaking on Thursday, Seahawks coach Pete Carroll said there is still no firm timetable for Jamal Adams' return from the quad injury their star safety suffered last year. He did put a timetable on having a timetable, though, saying he expected to know more about Adams' injury and Jordan Brooks, the linebacker's knee injury, in 6 to 8 weeks. So that's giving you probably the end of July when he's going to have some sort of an idea for us to have an idea. So coach speak already well underway for this upcoming season in June. Colts coach Shane Steichen said he did not have a timetable as well, this time for Shaquille Leonard, their star linebacker. That timetable is about returning to practice over last year's back injury that we know flummoxed people all year long that had invested in Shaq Leonard. In an update to last week, the New York Post, Brian Costello and Ryan Dunleavy reported Quinnen Williams and the Jets are not that far apart on a contract extension for their stud defensive tackle. ESPN's Rob Domofsky writes that Packers edge Rashawn Gary was rehabbing off to the side at OTAs. That is for the knee injury he suffered last year that took out their star edge player towards the end of the year. And finally, the Athletics' Ben Standing writes that Commanders linebacker Jamin Davis had a minor cleanup procedure on his knee. So based off of what we have for rosters right now, Davis looks to be the main middle linebacker for them this year. Gary, this minor cleanup procedure aside, because people always get these things, and if they're saying it's minor, we're going to believe that for now. Do you still believe in Jamin Davis being the guy there for him for this year anyway? You know, long term, we'll have to see how it plays out. But former first-round pick, I think this is going into year 3 for him. Do you think it'll be his year?
Still believe. It was tough believing last year. And if it wasn't for Cole Holcomb getting back into his injury history, I'm not 100% sure how that would have worked exactly, if I remember right. And Davis is not, he's far. We said it going into last year. He's far from prime. He's a little closer. He looks a little better. He's got some more playing time under his belt. There's no reason to think that he can't continue to consume those tackles like he's been doing. He's just not a big playmaker. So depending what kind of format you have, I'm a believer. I mean, do I want him to be the guy anchoring my top linebackers? No. But if he's within those, that lower top LB1 tier, I ain't really got a problem with it. What do you think?
Given the sort of projected role he's there to have at the moment, I'd be happy with him as my linebacker too. I don't know necessarily how happy I would be if I'm expecting him to be my first linebacker. To your point, if you're taking him sort of towards the linebacker 12 to 16, somewhere in there, and if he ends up being your first one, so be it. If you get another guy similar to him there and hope one of them ends up being a value and ends up ranking a lot higher at the end of the year, I'm fine, trying to play with that strategy, but I wouldn't go into this season expecting him to be a linebacker 1. I think a linebacker 2 where he caps off is probably more realistic at this point. All right. And we know you don't like Cody Barton there. So we've gone over our Cody Barton comments before, but he's the other name, so to speak, in the linebackers for Washington. So one of those two will probably have a very nice year for IDP managers. Davis is probably the more likely, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yep. We'll update it when we hit that NFC. No, wait a minute. We already did, didn't we?
Yeah, we did the NFC, NFC, and AFC East already. So
check out that playlist, folks.
Well, we're going to be diving into the AFC West, as I mentioned here. We're going to be talking about standard league plays, up and down values. But before we get into that, we want to let you know that the IDP Pro Manager Pod is supported by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is the world's first bet now, pay later Visa card. Edge offers up to $2,500 in betting advances, which can be an extremely valuable tool. Imagine what you could do with that increased bankroll. Get on down to some of your favorite futures without tying up your bankroll for a month or even more. Double down on a favorite bet you like, or even use this to create an awesome middle or hedge if you're into hedging. Edge Boost isn't some sleazy loan shark. They charge 0 interest. Do you know of a way you can access more money to place on a bet on your favorite team without paying any interest? We don't. So support SGPN and grow your bankroll by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to sign up. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge. Must be 21 years or older to use. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And for all of you with us, please stick around for the end of the show, and we will be giving you Johnny the Greek's Edge Boost Double Down Play of the Day, and you don't want to be missing that one.
Nope.
All right, so going into the AFC, we're going to be starting here with the Broncos. So we're going in alphabetical order. Someone whose value kind of seems like it's going up for the role that he has now and going forward is Alex Singleton, the linebacker that they gave a nice size contract to this offseason. He had a fantastic season last year. I think he had over 160 combined tackles. Gary, that's a lofty ceiling for anyone to attain in the season, although Singleton has shown himself to be a tackle monster, and this Denver system certainly allows him to flourish like that. How are you feeling about him? Where do you kind of see him capping off this year?
Well, it's kind of hard to make a guy stock up in this situation when he's already been that outlier kind of guy to begin with. We've ran the ringer about, being in Philadelphia. He's actually not an elite player, but he has great instincts and he's always around the ball, making tackles and making some plays on top of it. So where he is stocked up in this division is simple fact, that 3-year contract that locks it in, folks. Just go ahead and draft him dynasty wise as far as I'm concerned. The risk versus reward is not even close to what it was with this contract. So, I'm going maybe top 10. I think the guy, it's hard to bet against him.
Yeah, even when he wasn't the guy, when he was with
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia, whenever he would get on the field, he was one of those guys like, oh, so-and-so's out. Singleton's going to be playing for him. You could just, pick him up if you're on waivers or take him from your bench and plug him in. It almost felt like he was guaranteed to get you double-digit combined tackles, which you can't be asking for more from what really was a bench player, prior to last year. And he was just trying to find himself on a team that would give him a long-term shot. And we have that now. So if you're looking at where he was a year ago, value-wise, to where he is now and where he could even end up, he's still not a household name. He's not one of those big, sexy names out there for linebackers. So, yeah, I certainly think there's room for where he's going now to where he could end up.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And if, just to recap the guy's history, if I remember right, he tried out for the NFL like in 2016 or something, 15 possibly, didn't make the grade. So he took his talents to Canada and got their attention in Philadelphia, if I remember right. For some reason, Buffalo's like fading in and out of there too. But I do believe it was Philadelphia that sucked him into the situation where, man, he's done nothing but make waves in IDP formats everywhere.
Yeah, and when you're looking at him, there's a lot of places, even for this year or the next few years, that don't have him in terms of just overall rankings very high at all. You can still find him somewhere down in the 20s quite often for rankings, which for what he's done, guy that we've talked about in the news there earlier, he's behind Jordan Brooks. In a lot of places, which I'd rather have Singleton over Jordan Brooks at this point. Brooks showed himself to get you stats too, but he's coming off a big injury. It takes time for players to recover from that. We don't know where he's going to be after that. And a lot of his production was just volume based, where Singleton graded out better, than even Jordan Brooks did. So a lot of different ways that you can look at it, but it certainly seems like he's still a value.
I'm in a middle of a 22 round all IDP best ball draft with a few IDP pros and gurus, I guess you could say. And I lucked out. And I lucked out after going Pete Warner. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I kind of feel this is pretty good quality. Of course, I went Nick Bolton, my first pick, first round. But then I got Pete Warner in the 5th. Caden Ellis in the 6th, and where's Singleton? 7th with Singleton. Shaq Thomas at 9th. But either way, I felt pretty warm and fuzzy about getting Alex Singleton after some of those other players. Now, maybe it was me reaching. I never know, but it is best ball, so what the hell, right?
Yeah.
$3.
Well, on the flip side of it here, another linebacker sort of feels like, from what we've talked about, we see him sort of stock down comparatively with Josey Jewell. So Josey Jewell's contract, I'm pretty sure, is up after this year. And, it'll remain to be seen what they're going to end up doing with him. But they just drafted Drew Sanders, which is a super athletic, really productive linebacker last year at Arkansas, showed himself to be able to do a lot of different things. He went in the 3rd round, I believe, of the NFL draft this year, but he was one of the higher linebackers taken. Josey Jewell is 28 this year. Alex Singleton, well, at least right now, and Singleton's 29. So it's not like there's a big age difference. They've committed themselves to Singleton. They drafted a linebacker, usually a 3rd round pick. You think they're going to end up hoping to be a starter year or two in the league. Kind of seems like Jewell's an unknown, and I'm seeing him ranked a lot of places higher than Alex Singleton even. So
yeah, I've seen that too recently.
Yeah,
recently. It's kind of I can't call it crazy. All right, everybody's got their own thing about it, but I'm not going there. Josey Jewell's already proven that he can't stay completely healthy. It's his last year of his contract. They just paid Alex Singleton for a reason. They're not going to probably pay Josey Jewell either. The Drew Sanders was basically, in everybody's overall opinion, is that he's the heir apparent, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't say that it won't happen this year, because the only thing it takes is Joel to get nicked up again, miss a few games in a row, Sanders outperform, never know. Weirder things happen, but either way, Josie Jewell has really become hard to depend on. So, dynasty-wise, as long as he's in Denver, I'm looking at it that he's stocked down, standard size leagues.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way.
All right.
Moving over into the deeper leagues, we got Zach Allen here. He signed a huge contract coming over from the Arizona Cardinals. He had two actually really nice years the past 2 years, where he had 4 and then 5.5 sacks, 48 and 47 combined tackles, 5 and 10 tackles for a loss, with some big plays in there. Like last year, he had 8 pass deflections, which is just awesome to see out of a defensive lineman. Got a couple fumble recoveries, stuff like that. And he's moving over, sort of being plugged into the vacated spot from Draymond Jones, who was there and moved on to Seattle. He was a really nice pickup for a lot of people last year in those deeper leagues, or those leagues where you need to have one of those interior defensive linemen. How you feeling about him moving over into Denver?
Well, you got to like the opportunity and what he is bringing to the table. So I'm giving him that deep stock up. As an interior defensive lineman, preferably.
Yep.
Off the edge, it would have to be really, really deep. So think DT designation if you can, or interior defensive lineman, depending on your site. But yeah, definitely why I got him listed here. I like him. I'm not feeling all warm and fuzzy about Kareem Jackson. He's got to be stocked down at this point. Kind of surprised. I think he just re-signed, and we have
a 1 year deal, about $2.5 million. Yep.
Right. So what is it? They just drafted Skinner high. They just drafted Stearns last year.
Skinner wasn't high. Skinner was like the 6th round, but Stearns was like a 4th or 5th rounder. So they got a couple younger options behind him. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, notable options. So, I mean, his just age. It's definitely a stock down. And I don't know if he has much stock this year, maybe some in redraft. I wouldn't expect him to do much more than what he did last year, if I remember right. That was kind of like a DB2 at best.
So Caden Stearns last year was a 5th round pick, and Skinner was a 6th round pick this year.
I stand corrected. Thanks. Yep. No, cool. Yeah, people need to know that.
I do think this could be one of those, because he is old. I mean, as you mentioned, he was a 1st round pick in 2010. He just turned 35. So, that's old for an NFL player. I mean,
yeah.
I'm older than he is even. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's old, but for the NFL, he's old. That's just the way that it works in that sort of league. But he's a solid veteran. Yeah, but he knows how to play the game. He knows how to get people in the right position. And, maybe it sees him be, he's on the field as a player, but he's also sort of a player coach to help these younger guys,
right?
Learn the nuances and stuff. So I think it makes sense, especially for a team that views himself as a contender. You want that savvy veteran. So it makes sense from football perspective. I agree. For a defensive back league where you're playing him, it would have to be incredibly deep. And I'd rather take a shot where you're drafting him at a younger player with more potential upside to have that workout, as opposed to just, what you're getting with him, and that's fine. But I'm not looking for that as far as your deep bench spots in a big league where you'd be considering Kareem Jackson.
Well, cool. I'm going to pass this off as quick as possible, though, because my dog is going nuts for some reason. So give us your borderline deep or, up or down on Randy Gregory. I'm kind of stuck in the middle on him.
So they paid him. They're going to be using him, and he sort of has that sewn up spot as their main edge player, from what I can tell. Other options, they got Nick Bonito, who was a 2nd round pick last year, didn't play a ton. Jonathan Cooper was productive for a 7th round pick out of Ohio State. The previous coaching staff loved him. We'll have to see. He's a 7th round pick. They're not really invested in him, but he showed well, played hard. Baron Browning, I guess, is the guy I'd be more interested in than Randy Gregory, because Randy Gregory, based off the name, is going to go higher, but he's also significantly older than Baron Browning, and I probably should know how old he is. I don't offhand. He's around 30. He's been around quite a while. The stats don't back it up, but he was in and out of the league. He was getting suspended when he was with Dallas. He was a great talent coming into the league, but that was 2015. That's 8-9 years ago. So he is sort of a veteran edge rusher that's going to do all right, but I'm not expecting him to have some amazing, huge career year. And value-wise, I'd rather take a shot on someone like Baron Browning. That seemed more exciting what we saw out of him than going with Randy Gregory. So he's viable. He's just no one I'm looking to take.
Real clear, Browning in standard leagues or deeper? You're talking
deep leagues.
I have to, I'd have to fill the deep swing. Yeah, I do like Randy Gregory enough to, poke him on there at the end. But if you're seeing him in some rankings and he's in that top 12, 15, it better be right. I don't know. What do you think?
I'd want him as my edge 3. If we're talking standard leagues, I wouldn't want him even as my edge 2. I'd rather have him as an edge 3, someone that you can plug and play if you have to.
Right. Leave him on the waiver wire in standard leagues. You can get him later.
Well, we got more teams coming up here, but we've also got 2 more free contests for the Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals. To enter these, you have to go to the SGPN app, as they are exclusively on there. And they have series and game props. A $100 SGPN gift card is up for grabs in both of these contests. So go download the SGPN app today and let it ride with SGPN. Coming up next here, the Chargers. So this one was a bit interesting, Gary, when I saw him on here. Derwin James is a guy with his potential stock up. So a lot of places have him as the safety 1 or the defensive back 1 based on what he can do. What kind of makes you feel like there's still room to go up from where he is?
I don't think he's actually going to – it'll be tough to even match. I guess when you look at this overall Chargers depth chart, realistically, in a standard league, if you have to pick an option, do you see any stock up standard guys other than saying maybe Derwin James? Because it seems like over the last couple of years, I believe it's been like 14, 15 games a season. He has finally made a dent enough, even though it may not be playing the entire season for whatever reason. He's still making a huge dent. And when he's in there, those consistent numbers are high and a lock across the board for those 14, 15 games normally. So it does make that worth it. It's a fine line, but at least we have what I feel, a ceiling. All right. And that ceiling's based off the idea that he's only going to play 16 games this season.
Yeah, I mean, I love Derwin James. He's my defensive back 1, in terms of ratings for Dynasty and for redraft. And I don't know if it's so much a stock up thing, but if I'm thinking about someone that I could see improve upon where he's being ranked, I would throw out Eric Kendricks, the longtime linebacker in Minnesota. He has had, 143, 137 combined tackles with over 80 solo each of the past 2 years. That probably feels about right again, but the Chargers have just been looking for a consistent 1 linebacker that they can trust for so long, it seems like, and to put that savvy veteran in that defense that was already an all right defense when everyone was healthy. They got these veterans, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack there. Like, it just feels like, all right, if they're going to have a linebacker break this curse, it feels like it could be Eric Kendricks. And he's being drafted usually in the 20s, it seems like. And I think he could have a better landing than that in end of the year results, for the next year or two, if he stays healthy in the Chargers defense.
Yeah. He's an overall tough call. He was a tough one not to put it somewhere. I'll be doing my normal whining about Tranquil here shortly when we go to the Chiefs, so I'm not even going to go there on this one. Derwin James is Derwin James. You get what you pay for. I guess it's either a home run grand slam kind of thing, or it's not. So if you're going to go there and it's a DB standard leagues, you got to go with him. If you get a hold of him in a deep league, that's cherry or cheesecake, excuse me.
So you don't have any
Zach
interest in the other safeties there at all?
No, not at the moment. I think the entire depth chart for anybody that's going to be playing alongside of James, I don't think there's going to be enough IDP production there. You got Kendricks, you got Bosa coming back, I guess. You got Mack. I just don't see it being a relevant position enough to go throwing darts at it if it's Gilman or one of the couple of the guys they've got in that depth chart. Keep an eye on somebody like John Johnson being signed. That would be, imagine that. John Johnson, former Ram, former Brown. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably wishful thinking, but either way, they ain't going to do it just because it makes sense.
All right. Well, looking in the deeper leagues here, anyone that you got a feeling that you're fine taking a flyer on in a deeper league from the Chargers?
Right. I'll roll with that one. I could have rolled right into that. My bad, leaving that hang with Khalil Mack. You got to kind of give him a little bit of a upside tick if Joey Bosa is actually going to be healthy enough to play at least half the season this year. Yeah. That's all that basically is. Again, looking at this depth chart, I'll ask you, Kraig, is there any deep up guys in here? You can use Gillen if you like. I don't know. I just don't feel warm and fuzzy about it.
We're excluding rookies here by and large too, just so everyone knows. Again, this is mainly veterans we're talking about. Most of the deeper guys that they kind of like are the rookies, so I'll avoid that. In a deep league, if J.C. Jackson is healthy and back for the Chargers at one of the quarterback spots, again, this is deep. Asante Samuel Jr., I like those guys that have the pedigree of their father playing in the league. He was a second-round pick. He's going to be one of their starting cornerbacks, and we've seen what Jackson can do when he's healthy and on the field. There'd be more targets out there towards Asante Samuel Jr. He's shown himself to be a willing and a decent tackler. So if you had to pick someone deep, I guess him.
Right. Rolling off of that, we're just going to skim over the top of Kenneth Murray as a deep stock down. I mean, you can't trust anything about this whole situation. I just can't think about why we would spend more than I have at the moment talking about it again. So we'll roll with Josie Bosa, which, we just mentioned him. He's 50-50. So I have seen him being taken pretty high. He was just taken fairly high and higher than I would have liked to have in his best ball. How much stock can we put into him? He's older. He's injury history. He's banged up. It's a good time for him to come in and maybe have lost a step.
Yeah, well, here's as much as I can really tell you. He's being drafted too high for my liking. He's still like a top 10 if you're talking about like a defensive end or an edge guy. The only thing that makes me think, hey, maybe this year we'll do all right. If you look at the past, like 6 years or so, he's had a great year, an off year, great year, off year, great year, off year. We're coming off an off year, so he's due for a bounce back year again here if you're following the trend along based on, because it was 16 games 7, 16 games 12, 16 games 5. Hey, maybe we'll get another 16 games and get those, 40 some tackles with double digit sacks, double digit.
We do podcasts. We do podcasts for a sports gambling podcast network, folks. So yeah, what the hell? Go throw your odds on it. You're playing the odds, you're playing karma. When it comes to drafting them, the only thing I'm going to be interested in is if I can find somebody in a deeper league or something that maybe, he's at the end of his career and I can entice them with some kind of depth move where I just cost me a rookie pick or something. It'd have to be a perfect case scenario. Depth is the only place that I'm looking at him at.
And if he and Mac are both healthy and you're getting them later than they're going, there's a good shot you get a value because they still are, in terms of just pure pass rushers, two of the best in the league when they're healthy. So,
Fact. The National Breast Cancer Foundation reports that a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer every 2 minutes. And we already know finding new innovations in research, surgical options, and clinical trials is essential to finding a cure. And to all those fantasy football ladies that may be listening, we also know with early detection your survival rate goes up. And that's why breast self-exams are very important, and the best way to give your old girls their best fighting chance to win the championship. So, with all that being said, the fellas here at the IDP Pro Players Pod would like to remind everyone, the National Breast Cancer Foundation does take donations, so please, go and give what you can. And let's give our mothers, our wives, our sisters, and every woman, the support, the resources, and maybe even more importantly, the hope, by knowing we all really do care.
well, that's going to bring us to the Kansas City Chiefs here, Gary. And I know you mentioned him earlier. Drew Tranquill's one of the guys we're going to talk about here for standard leagues, and Willie Gay is the other one. Both linebackers, both alleged options to play second fiddle to Nick Bolton, who's the main guy there for him. Which one of these you liking up, and which one of these you liking down?
All right, well, Nick Bolton's going to stick up there. So between Willie Gay and Tranquill, talked about a little bit. I'm going to try to keep my composure this time, talking about how Tranquill got screwed. And just mention, Willie Gay, he actually did well on the field last year. And between him and Drew Tranquill, even though you got to give some kudos to Tranquill's coverage skills, they're two different types of kind of linebacker as far as I can. When I watch them on film, and I've watched a lot of Tranquill and I watched a lot of Willie Gay towards the end of last season, I just don't see them displacing him. He's just going to become that third wheel Tranquill is. So definitely stock down, but for the Charger, or for his namesake from last year. Willie Gay, though, I love what he had going on, and I think that he's going to be a great combination, and his snap count was up there towards that last part of the season. He had that crazy suspension, stupid stuff, whatever. He's just coming in, I believe, stock up. So if you're finding him later in drafts, go ahead and dot him on there. Standard leagues, I'd have to kind of consider him a potential serviceable sleeper breakout type. It depends on what his numbers look like in your league or in your format from last year. We're rolling on to, let's see, which was kind of hard between Willie Gay and Karlaftis, right?
George Karlaftis, yep.
Oh, yay me. So I'm not going to attempt that again. As a matter of fact, I'll probably make sure I copy and paste and put that in a file when I'm editing later, because that's not going to happen again anytime soon. It was really tough saying that this kid could not bend with Willie Gay in the standard league stock up. I have him in the deeper format stock up. He showed improvement last year towards the end of the season. He's got a year under his belt. He's going to be playing against one of the better defensive tackles in the interior defensive linemen in the league. And you just got to figure he's going to take a next step.
Yeah, he's a guy, and I think the other guys, Frank Clark is gone, I know. I don't think Dunlap is there right now. I think he's a free agent still. They had a couple older veterans they brought in for that presence, and Karlaftis really did turn it up towards the end of the season, and in that playoff run, he showed him why he took him in the first round in 2022. And they went and they sort of doubled down on the idea. They took an edge rusher. I think it was Will McDonald the fourth. No. McDonald went to the Jets. It is Felix and Udike Zoma, I think, was the defensive end they took in the draft here. And we'll check that because
Yes, you nailed it, dude. I'm looking directly at it.
Yep, Felix and Udike Zoma, who, again, a big guy, 6'4", 256, really nice athletic profile. Showed a lot there when he played at Kansas State. Local guy in the area. They knew what they were getting with him. So I really like what they're doing with their pass rushing core here. So it's not like it's just going to be Karlaftis and nobody, because you mentioned they have Chris Jones, and then they had another pass rushing guy here. They did take a lot of defense in the draft period, so.
And don't think that they're done completely with Frank Clark. I believe he's still a free agent. Even Dunlap, I mean, you use him in a rotation. He's actually been kind of solid for him. These guys are not necessary for OTAs. There aren't mini camps and all this other bullshit. So just don't discount them adding another guy, but I don't think it help or hurts Karlaftis. No.
Close. Karlaftis.
See, I told you I'd never get it
Yeah,
again. Anyhow.
You went to the well one too many times.
Right. I still don't think it's going to hurt him in the long run because they niched his they created his niche for him. They found his developmental role and where they're going to use him, and they're going to make sure this kid gets to see the field a lot this year.
So on the downward side of the deep leagues, Mike Edwards, longtime safety for Tampa Bay, left there, went to sign with the Chiefs, sort of replacing Juan Thornhill, I think is sort of the expectation here. Thornhill moved on to the Cleveland Browns. That spot really hasn't done a whole lot in general. Thornhill's been like, all right, keep third, fourth safety, something like that. You could probably live with it, but never showed a ton of upside. I found it was interesting, the contract he got with the Browns. But for the Chiefs, again, not a huge IDP production spot there at that safety spot. So value going down based on the switch.
Right. Trivia. Who was the last real DB1 safety come out of Kansas City?
My guess would be when Tyrann Mathieu was there.
Been a while, and even he really wasn't that strong of one the last few years, I think, possibly. But either way, all right.
That's just my guess. I don't actually know the answer.
I am so forgetting Sorensen. Remember Daniel Sorensen? Wasn't he there with Kansas City? He's kind of more like a huge linebacker / safety kind of guy, and he he's a big Reed fan. So actually, the last guy to put any kind of in-game numbers, maybe not for the season, would be that fella. And then you would have to probably go on Matthew. But I had to mention Sorensen because he was always a sore spot. He was always on the waiver wire, and it was always the other guy that got him when he turned around and started producing in the middle of the season or something.
Right. Anyone else you got up here you want to mention?
I was going to
talk about.
Right. Mike Edwards, he's definitely stocked down in deeper formats and probably non-existent in standard leagues unless something happens to the known producers in that secondary. But Chris Jones had a hell of a season last year. So I just wanted to bring up the topic. I mean, the guy is clearly one of the best defensive tackles, interior defensive lines. IDP plays at that DL position or whatever with 44 total tackles last year and 15.5 sacks, multiple big splash plays to add to that. So can we crown this kind of a production or even in that realm of that tier? Can we bet on this enough that we start taking Chris Jones over a lot of these other guys? 15.5 sacks. Am I seeing this correct? Regular season last year.
Let me check.
I do believe
high, but not without the realm of.
It is ESPN that I am looking at.
Yeah.
Oh, ESPN, no typo there. So, can we? Where are we? I mean, technically, after coming off a performance like this, he's an elite guy. If this was an edge rusher with these numbers, oh my goodness, he would be a top 5 in all rankings and DLs over general. Maybe even, people would be pulling for some linebacker / kind of designation or something stupid. All right, interior linebacker or interior defensive line linebacker. I don't know, just rattling on at this point. Where are you holding him? Do you think that he can come close? I'm going to make it easy. Can he hit double digits? Sacks? Can he hit 35 total tackles?
I think he can. I think it's going to depend on how they use him. They've been messing around a lot with, are they using him as a DN? Are they moving him back inside? And a lot of what he did last year was due to the fact that, and it was at the end of 2021, it seems like they figured out, all right, we're going to move him back inside. And then, in 2022, we're going to use him there. I think that's where he's the most effective. And I think they're finally able to do that because they got these young pass rushers. Plus, you mentioned if they want to get some more veterans, another name like Justin Houston. He's not a regular, whatever. He's not a player that's going to be out there.
He's
all the
old,
time
man.
anymore.
You can say it just because I'm sitting here.
Well, I
you
wasn't
don't
trying
have
to think
be
that,
shy.
but he's a situational pass rusher, and if you're fine with getting your younger guys out there for most of the plays, and then you need a third pass rusher on the edge or something, bring one of those older guys, and he can still be effective. Dunlap showed he could do it. Clark could do it. I mean, there's pass rushers you're going to be able to find out there if that's all that you want them to do, and that's what's going to help out Chris Jones is having those young guys plus whoever else that they have come in. So, yeah, do I think that he could hit double digits and 30, 35 combined tackles again? I do. There's years where he missed it that he wasn't that far off. 2019, he had 9 sacks. 2021, he had 9 sacks. He had 36, 27, and 44 combined tackles. So I think around that 9-10 mark, 35 combined tackles is sort of what I would expect, unless they're playing weird positional stuff with him again. All right. So before we get into our final team here, which is the Raiders, we want to make sure that you guys enter the IDP Pro Roquan Smith Jersey Breast Cancer Awareness Giveaway. All you have to do is enter. And to do that, you donate as little as $3 to any nationally recognized cancer organization. You're going to want to throw a follow into the IDP Pro Managers or Players Pod, and you're going to want to retweet the post that you can find on both of those with the hashtag IDPROS. You could end up being the name that is drawn as the winner on September 24th. So again, you can go to the post at either the IDP Pro Manager or IDP Pro Players Pod. You can also check out my Twitter account, Gary's Twitter account, Johnny the Greek, and you're going to help us bring cancer to its knees. So make sure you go sign up.
Yep. And you're just going to have to start just Grammarly and editing the shit out of my ads I send you, man. I apologize.
That's all right. I can do all right on the fly once in a while.
Yeah. I just felt like that was so poorly written by me.
AI is not taking over yet, Gary. So we'll still be doing some of it. But the Raiders, who you like here for the Raiders, Gary? There's a lot of, again, interesting options across this team where it seems like this defense is always in flux.
It's kind of tough not to go with stock up with Spielman joining the Raiders, the former Pittsburgh guy. He actually, he's been serviceable and solid for Tomlinson up with the Steelers for a long time. As a depth guy, he stepped into run the defense quite a few times, though, with some injuries, and been a key second part linebacker for the team a lot, too, over the years. So he's very interesting, but I'm going to go with him for more of my deep stock up because I got to jump right back on the only bandwagon that I see that if we're not going to do something with a rookie, perhaps off the top, and that's Devin Deablo again this year.
Yep.
Yeah, you got until we get a healthy season completely out of this guy, we can't, just count what we had seen at the beginning and what we have seen at times. Give the guy, they're believing in him. They're going to give him another shot. He's definitely stock up. Am I going and drafting him like he's my, week one starter, even with 2 to 3 guys? Probably not. I'm definitely doing this as a depth guy, but he has LB1 potential. That's what we keep, LB1 potential. We keep saying that. And Robert Spielman, being the deeper stock up, I'll just go ahead and hit on him. He could actually end up being very, very serviceable if we can't see Deablo again this year for some unforeseeable reason. So, there's some deep stock up to be putting him into your rosters and depth charts and places.
Yeah, Deablo is one of those guys that, they hit, they miss. Sometimes it's hard to figure out why, but he's one of those safety linebacker hybrid type of guys that are becoming so popular in today's NFL. Sometimes they do great, sometimes they don't. I think it is a lot harder. It works well in our minds to project someone to work that way, and it's harder to have that be realized on the field when they're actually playing. But as long as those guys have that versatility, teams are going to sort of be drawn to that. So he'll definitely get his opportunities there. I'm talking about someone sort of, value down in deeper league, but, you mentioned in other shows that Luke Masterson, he kind of feels like the odd man out of these linebackers that you talked about.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, he was just kind of a flash in the pan last year. I don't think there's any draft stock there. There's nothing to back this up. They've brought in Spielman. Masterson, if you're still sitting on him in deeper formats or hoping for something more in a standard league, you could pretty well let him go. I was going to circle back and finish this up, besides saying that it's obvious that Chandler Jones is stocked down with the addition of, was it Tyree Wilson, I believe it was?
Yep.
The rookie. So with his addition, dynasty-wise, Chandler Jones already showed last year that he is stocked down anyhow because of the season he had in his role. Max Crosby is the stud of this rushing defense, and Chandler Jones is just getting long in the tooth. So hell of a career, hell of an all-pro, Hall of Famer, but sometimes this happens, and this is how he's chosen to finish out his career and try to get a Super Bowl, I guess, with the Raiders. We'll wrap this up if you want with me just asking you about, what was it, second year, or was he a rookie last year? The free safety, I am going to butcher his name, Moehrig? No, Tre'von
Moehrig.
Hey, close.
He's a free safety for them. And he did a lot better in his second year in the league than he did his first year in terms of just, being graded out and making some plays. Not necessarily showing up in the box score, but that's the free safety position by and large in today's NFL. I much prefer Marcus Epps, who went there from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's not as sexy of a name as, a young rookie, and I do think Murray could be a long-time valuable player in real life NFL, but for fantasy wise, I don't really see it unless they completely change his role. But I think that role is what Marcus Epps is going to have this year, sort of that role that Jonathan Abram had previously, and that's the more valuable one for fantasy. So I'd rather go with him.
Right. I could just avoid both of these guys altogether, especially Epps and his his performance last year. So as you stated, you're picking between the two positions, but in glory of all the strong safety positions in the box, I'm not really hyped about Epps, and they love Tre'von. I'm not going to do the end. He did have a few games. I'm not even going there, but he did have a few games where he had some good numbers last year. If something's clicked, best I got on this is I'm dotting him in some deep dynasty leagues like this best ball. I might shoot for him at the last, I'm going to pepper. I haven't, I think we're halfway through. I haven't took a DB yet. Oh, no, I just took Sauce Gardner. Excuse me. I think I took Sauce Gardner in 11. That's because my quill ran out. So, oops. Either way, I was going to dot them all at the end, like 5 or 6 in a row since it's best ball. And if I get him, it might be worth a shot.
All righty.
Ever notice these days how things have changed with sports entertainment? Suddenly everyone is edgy and they don't mind offending people with offensive words. It's everywhere. Podcasts, radio, to primetime TV. All I want are NFL defensive player reports. Maybe a quick update on the best streaming corners. And yet, I have to hear about the dirty O. That's right. Offensive player discussions and hot takes blocking my path to the sweet, sweet defensive information I need.
Bullshit.
That was until I found the IDP Pro Players Podcast. And now, unless the IDP Pros John or Gary mess up, I know I'm not going to be offended by their no dirty O approach.
Damn.
So take my word for it. Catch the Sports Gambling IDP Pro Player Podcast every week and leave the dirty O behind. So if you or someone you know has an IDP degenerate problem, that's terrific. And the fantasy move to make is to go follow a couple of the best veterans in the fantasy football industry. That was on Twitter at I, D, P, one word, at the IDP Pro Players Pod.
Oh, yeah.
The IDP Pros podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. My Edge Boost Double Down Play of the Day is for Nikola Jokic to be the NBA Finals MVP. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Head on over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to sign up today. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to sign up today.
I am really starting to think that John knows what the hell he's doing on these double downs, right?
Nuggets certainly looked good last night, and they, didn't need a ton of Nikola Jokic in that game, although he's going to be having his big games here. They had a bunch of other players step up, and,
right.
It's a 1 seed versus an 8 seed. You kind of expect the Nuggets to take it. So it's a good bet.
If you all didn't catch it, that's what his double down was last week, right?
Yep.
Nuggets to win it all.
And we want to thank you guys for watching us live on YouTube here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, as you can hear the little jingle in your ear when we or any of the other great SGPN content goes live. Hit the like button on YouTube so you get to see more of Gary, Kraig, Johnny, and SGPN in your algorithm. Gary, that's going to do it for us this week. We have the NFC West. We got the 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals next week, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But anything else you want to tell the viewers here for this week?
Hey, I just like to say we got that jersey giveaway going on. Go check that out on Twitter if you would at our. I'm not even going to go through the accounts. It's for a great cause. For as little as $3, you could win over $150 worth of stuff. So. Even leading into more, if you could make it into the IDP, win, you would win an entry into the Breast Cancer Classic, which has got prizes, and it's free to enter there too, pretty much. You just got a little donation again. Just a couple bucks. It only takes a couple bucks, and you can make a huge difference when we do it together.
That's going to do it for us, everyone. I want to thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. So you can see us then. You can check us out. And, of course, the IDP Pro Players Pod over on any of the podcatchers that you have, Spotify, Apple, TuneIn.
I almost forgot.
Rate and review there for us. What'd you forget, Gary?
And Another I forgot. You can now catch reruns of the IDP Pro Players Pod that's been going on for a long time now. It's over a year old or hitting on a year now. You can catch those reruns on YouTube, and we'll start dotting in some old with the new.
So make sure you catch that. We want to thank you once again. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you next week.